Our show sponsor is Aspire Drinks. If you go to aspiredrinks.com, using the code Dween, you can save 15% on all of your orders. I just bought a 27-pack variety edition because there's so many different good flavors. It's green tea power energy drinks, less caffeine, more benefits, the refreshingly unextreme energy. Go and get some today using code Dween, and let's get back to the video. Welcome in, Dween Nation. This is your host, Justin Pies, alongside Genoa Agudelo, and Week 5 is here. And our game predictions are ready to roll today. There are, two less games because we finally have bye weeks this week. What is it? The Falcons, the Packers, the Bears, and the Steelers. So there's some teams on bye, but we're here to predict the games that are on. We got Thursday night games. We don't have any doubleheaders. It's a pretty normal week, I guess, due to the bye weeks. But I guess there is one thing that's out of the normal, which we do have another Europe game. This time in London, England, with the Vikings and the Browns. But yeah, before we dive into all of that, how you doing, Genoa?
Yo, Dween Nation. Justin, another week, and I'm so excited. Week 5, I got to say, and I was just telling you this, it has some pretty good matchups. I love the time slots for a few of these West Coast games. And I think that there's some quarterback matchups that I'm excited to see there this week, Justin. We get one in New Orleans. That's a matchup that I didn't think I'd be intrigued in, but it seems intriguing to me after what I saw last week. And so, Justin, I'm excited to get into these. But yeah. When you're ready, we can go right into this. Let's go right into this. Okay, guys. Last week, Justin, I want to say you're at 153. I forget every week now, but when you're ready, let me get.
All right. Count me down. I'm ready.
All right, ready? 3, 2, 1, and go.
All right, we start with Thursday Night Football, San Francisco versus the Rams. I am going to go with the Rams. The 49ers are too injured right now, so I'll take them to the Rams to win a division battle. We move to London, England, where the Vikings play the Browns. Dylan Gabriel's first start in his NFL career, but them going all the way to England while the Vikings have already been up there for a week. I'm going to go with the Vikings to win this one. We go with Vegas and the Colts is our next game. I'm going to go with Daniel Jones and the Colts to get this win here. Then we got the Giants and the Saints. Jackson Dart looked really good in his debut, but let me get the Saints and Spencer Rattler to get the job done at home. They win. Dallas at the Jets. I'll take the Cowboys to win this one in a fun game. We go to Denver against the Philadelphia Eagles in Lincoln Financial Field. I'll go with the Eagles to get the win there. Miami plays the Panthers, and the Panthers looked good the last time I saw them play at home, so I think they're going to get the win here. So Panthers win there. Houston at Baltimore. No Lamar, no defensive players. They're missing like 4 or 5 starters, and I'm still going to go the Baltimore Ravens to get the win here at home. The Texans just always have a tough time with Baltimore, and I think Baltimore's still good enough, and Cooper Rush is good enough to get it done there. Tennessee goes to Arizona. Tennessee might be the worst team in the NFL with the Cincinnati Bengals, so I'll take Arizona. Tampa Bay at Seattle is probably going to be my game of the week. I think this is going to be such a fun watch at the 3 o'clock slate, and I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks to get it done there with a defensive stop at the end of the game. Detroit at Cincinnati. Earlier in the year, I thought this would be a good game. Now with no Burrow, I'm going with the Lions for sure. Washington at the Chargers. Give me Chargers. New England at Buffalo. These games are always kind of low-scoring, thug-it-out games, but I'm going to take the Bills to win at home. And then Monday night, Kansas City at Jacksonville. I'll take the Chiefs.
All right, Justin, 50 there, 150. I thought it was 130. I was looking at it. I was okay. He's going to finish a little early. Yeah.
Too. Well, that's okay.
Okay.
That's okay. There's some interesting games here, though. Like, running through it, I'm like, okay, wow, we're going to have to talk about that one, and that one. So I'll set you up, and then we'll dive into all of them after we're done.
All right, ready?
All right, ready? 3, 2, 1.
All right, we go to Thursday night. The Rams are hosting the 49ers. Give me the Rams there. I think Puka, the best receiver in football right now, is going to continue to stay hot. We go to overseas in London there, where the Browns host Minnesota. I think that this defense is going to be able to lock Gabriel down. Give me the Vikings there, dominating overseas. We have the Colts who host the Vegas Raiders. I don't know. This is somewhat of a good matchup, but let me get the Colts there. Jonathan Taylor and Daniel Jones rush all over this defense. We go to New Orleans where Jackson Dart faces Spencer Rattler. I don't know. I like this matchup for some reason. I don't know. I think Jackson Dart does good. I think that Spencer Rattler puts up a fight. You know what? Give me the Saints getting their first victory of the season, stealing one at home. We have the Cowboys visiting the Jets. This is another good matchup that I like. Give me the Cowboys winning on the road as the Jets go to 0-5. We go to Philly where they host the Broncos. I think that Jalen Hurts dominates this game as well as the Philly defense. Give me the Eagles. We go to Carolina as they host Miami. This is going to be a good matchup, but to me, this is another good quarterback matchup, a good kind of record matchup for both these teams. Let me go the Panthers winning one and Bryce Young having a great day. We go to Baltimore as they host my Houston Texans. We struggle, like you guys mentioned. I mean, they struggle against the Ravens. Give me the Ravens at home beating my team, unfortunately. We go to Arizona where they host the Titans, and I think the Cardinals dominate. We go to Seattle where they host the Buccaneers. Give me the Buccaneers stealing one on a game-winning field goal there in Seattle. We go to Cincinnati where, man, I wish Joe Burrow was playing this game more than anything. But you know what? I'm going to take the Lions stealing one on the road there. I think that Jake Browning makes it somewhat interesting since they're home, but I still think that Dan Campbell and this defense overpowers them at the end. We go to the Chargers where they host a wild game. Give me Jaden Daniels coming back from injury, stealing one on the road against the Chargers. I love Jaden Daniels. He goes over 300 yards and 4 total touchdowns in his return. We go to Buffalo and first Sunday Night Football where they host the Patriots. Give me Josh Allen dominating, another MVP performance. And then we go to Jacksonville where they host the Chiefs. Somewhat of a close game, but I think the Kansas City Chiefs scored 10 points in the fourth quarter to go up, and they steal the game. Give me the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes.
All right, you're at 222.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. There's some takes. We were pretty aligned for most of our takes. I guess we'll start at the game that I was saying is the game of the week because we did differ there. But it was a really close decision between Tampa Bay and Seattle. Give me your take on this game, how it's going to play out, who's playing good, who you want to start, and why the Bucs are going to win.
First off, Justin, it's a matchup between Ibuka and JSN. I mean, these are two former Ohio State products. One is in his rookie year, one is in his second year, and they are on fire right now. I mean, Justin, you could have waited to pick these guys in fantasy. Maybe JSN is kind of like a third-round pick, but you could have waited to pick Ibuka, and I love it. Maybe you could even also waited and got a Roma Dunze and had those 3 receivers. Man, what a lineup that is, Justin. But anyways, this matchup in Seattle, like I mentioned in our previous video on starts and sits, these are 2 quarterbacks that were in Carolina once upon a time. They were also dumped by the teams that drafted them. Took them a while to get around, and then they find their head coach that they spend most of a year with, which once Kevin O'Connell, once with McVay, and then they find their new team the following year, and now it looks like they have their star receiver to go along with them, and it's like they now are looking for playoffs, and these 2 teams are so even, in my opinion. Obviously, it sucks that Bucky is looking to not play this game because I would have loved to see a Bucky, Rashad White, versus a Kenneth Walker. We know Charbonnet is also kind of playing hurt, so maybe it is even in some ways. But you do get a Rashad White versus a Kenneth Walker, 2 solid running backs. Remember, Justin, Rashad White was a running back that 2 years ago we liked at the end of the season. He was a fantasy league winner. This is a year before Bucky was drafted, I want to say, out of Oregon. Anyways, it's a good matchup in my opinion. It's a 3 o'clock game in Seattle. Both teams are looking to win their division. And I love it. I love it, this matchup so much. It's definitely a popcorn matchup for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at who I think will be the stars of this game. I do think Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to go bananas. I could see double-digit receptions, over 100 yards in a score kind of game for him. I'm a little bit worried about the rushing game for the Seattle Seahawks, not due to talent, but due to the Buccaneers' defensive line. They've been really good. They haven't allowed a rusher to go over 4 yards a carry. And I know Ken Walker's explosive, but they have a really good defensive line there. And I think this is a game that is going to be throwing back and forth. So you're hoping he gets a lot of receptions, but I don't think he'll be very effective on the ground. As for the Buccaneers side of things, I think you kind of have to start those top guys. Ekbuka, of course. I think Godwin's even worth the start.
Oh, yeah.
And Rashad White's going to be a start, even though I think he will be inefficient as well. But the volume's just going to be too valuable to sit him. And then you got to start both quarterbacks. So I think that game's going to be on fire. I have Seattle winning it just because they're at home. But if it was flipped, I would take Tampa Bay there. We'll move to another game, though, a game that I think is going to be super tight. I could see going either way. We both picked the Saints, but I want you to tell me about what you think this game between the Giants and the Saints are going to look like.
It's interesting, Justin, because I never thought I would be looking into this match for week 5, but there's some change of events. Obviously, unfortunately, Malik Neighbors gone for the year, and it sucks because I wanted to see Jackson Dart, and they only played about a half together, not even 3 quarters. And so maybe it was 3/4, but still, I mean, it's just sad. But anyways, Jackson Dart now has some good targets. I like Wendell Robinson as a sleeper as well as Darius Slayton. And so I think that they have some good running backs to throw it to with Singletary and Scadaboo. But I feel like, this is a matchup that in the close with the roof over their head, no weather issues that you got to worry about. I think that this is going to be a little bit of a shootout because you look at the Giants, they wanted to get their second victory, right? They got a victory last week against the Chargers. They upset a 3-0 team, and now Daboll is fighting for his life here. He is thirsty. He's craving another victory. Now it's on the road. He sees blood in the water with the Saints not winning a game this year. But then you look at the Saints; they're 0-4. They in some ways they're not dog water, right? Like I think the Panthers are not the Panthers, excuse me, the Titans are more dog water than the Saints, right? And so I think the Saints are with Spencer Rattler. You got something that you can cook off of, excuse me. And then you have two running backs that are capable of doing good. Like Kamara is good, right? And let's see how his usage is. But then you also have Kendra Miller there, who scored a touchdown, I think, or two last week, and I think that he's going to be involved in this offense. You got Chris Olave, who I'm going to start this week in one of my leagues. I'm hoping that he has a good matchup, in my opinion. So who is one of the teams that really wants it the more? Kellen Moore versus Daboll, two coaches that are familiar with each other, right? They faced each other last year in the division when Kellen Moore was in Philly. And I feel like they are some ways familiar with each other. So I Jackson Dart, I'm really excited to see what he does because he won a game with his legs last week. And so I don't know, can he win another in the Saints? For me, Justin, before I want to see what you think about this matchup, I want to say, do you think Jackson Dart can be a great kind of fantasy quarterback? He has the rushing upside, and he does have Slayton and Wandale Robinson that can pick up the load there. Maybe Scadaboo can be a good receiving running back. What do you think about Dart? I know obviously Neighbors affects his stock, but what do you think about it before, I guess, you talk about this game as a whole?
Yeah, for Dart in the fantasy aspect of things, I think he's going to be a guy that's really inconsistent, a guy that you need a rushing output for because the loss of Neighbors is kind of immeasurable. You have just the receiving core that you have now is not shiny at all. Now it's probably bottom 5 in the entire NFL with Wandale and Slayton. It's okay with Hyatt, Theo Johnson. They're going to be running the ball a lot more. They showed it even last week. Cam Scadaboo had, 25 carries. So I think that he's going to be a guy that if he has, 50, 60 yards rushing in a game, which is in the realm of possibilities. He ran a lot last week. If he does that, he could be a consistent piece for you. But if they try to make him a pocket passer this year, I'm not going to want to have him on my fantasy team or in my starting lineup. So that's kind of my take with Dart. The way I see this game playing out is with the way the Saints have played. I know they're 0-4, but they have been, it's besides against the Seattle Seahawks, which they just had a really, really bad start. They were down 21-0, I believe, in the first quarter. But in every other game, they were in it. They were fighting the good fight, and they were tight with the Cardinals, with the 49ers, and even with the Bills last week. I know they ended up losing by, 12 points, but they were close. It was 21-19 at one point. And then the Bills just kind of pulled away. And that was on the road for Spencer Rattler and the group there. So I think that they might be a sneaky team to win. They could get up to 5 wins. I originally had them at 1 win on the season before the season started. But I just think they have a good group of guys here. I think Kellen Moore's a really solid coach. And with not a lot of talent, they're making things work here. So I like New Orleans to get the victory here. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you about this next matchup. I'm dying to talk about Denver going to Philadelphia. I got to see what your thoughts are. For me, just some opening thoughts before I give it to you, Justin. I obviously have the Eagles winning, but one thing I want to see out of Denver, how are they going to get the running backs involved? You're able to run the ball on Philadelphia's defense, but how can you do it on the road in their home field? But how are you going to do it? You have RJ Harvey, who scored a receiving touchdown but got 14 carries last week. But then you got J.K. Dobbins, who had over 100 yards and didn't even hit 20 carries. So that's something interesting I'm willing to see. Also, Philadelphia's passing defense has been pretty good. I know they led up that big play to Ibuka last week. But still, Ibuka is, in my mind, one of the best receivers in fantasy. But, overall, they've been pretty good stopping the receiving game. But it's how can they get Cortland Sutton? Because Justin, Cortland Sutton is scoring almost every game when he's with Bo Nix. And I feel like it's an interesting matchup because Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton have been so connected. They've been literally – it's every time, Justin. I promise you, every time. I don't watch much Broncos games, but I'll check up on it and I'll see what's going on. And it'll say Cortland Sutton touchdown, receiving from Bo Nix. And it's How is that going to be able to do? Like, are they going to be able to replicate that on the road in Philly? That's what I'm excited about, to be honest, because Philly has a pretty good secondary, and then you kind of flip situations. It's like, okay, you have AJ Brown going up against her 10, and it's like, okay, well, obviously we're starting AJ, or we're sitting AJ Brown. We're not confident, but it's like, wouldn't it be funny if AJ Brown had a big time game against this tough Denver secondary? So that's something that like speaks out to me so far. Not to mention this defense. If there's like a few defenses that can stop a tush push, maybe slow down to Saquon Barkley, it is this Denver defense. So I want to see what Bo Nix we're going to see on the road. I want to see how Sean Payton can call plays. But then the flip side of it, what can Sirianni do to have a repeat matchup of, 2 weeks ago where this team was last home, they faced the Rams. You saw A.J. Brown get into the end zone. You saw, Jalen Hurts have a great passing game. So it's very interesting, Justin, to see how these two matchups, it's a chess and checkers kind of matchup that I'm excited to see. And that's definitely for me one of the games.
Yeah, I think the way that this game is going to play out, it's not going to be a big shootout like it was with Tampa Bay and Philadelphia last week. I
Right.
think that Saquon Barkley is going to dominate in this football game. The
Oh,
Broncos have given us two different sides to what they are as a rushing defense. When they played in Week 1 against Tennessee, dominated. They dominated against Tony Pollard in that rushing attack. Last week against Cincinnati, they dominated that rushing attack. Chase Brown couldn't do anything against Denver. But then in between that, they played against the Colts, where we saw Jonathan Taylor had a combined 215 yards rushing and receiving with a
yeah.
touchdown. And then the week after that, they played the Chargers, who had, I believe, over 100 combined yards and a touchdown as well.
Yeah.
So I think we're waiting to see what kind of rushing defense this team is. Now you got to point out they played against two good rushing attacks in the Chargers and the Colts, and they got beat up compared to Week 1 and Week 4, which were bad offenses. So that's why I think Saquon is finally in line for a big game. He hasn't had that yet, and that's why he was on my buy low video on TikTok and Instagram this week, because he hasn't had that huge performance, and people are thinking maybe he's just not getting that usage anymore, that they want to save him up. I'm sure part of that's real, but I think that this is the week that he has a big game, especially with how good the Broncos secondary is. And so I think that they're going to jump out to a lead and be running the football, methodical drives, 7-8 minute drives, and Denver is going to keep it close. I think the ending score would be like 24-17, like something along those lines, where Denver's able to keep it close. But I think everybody just knows that the Eagles are going to pull it out. For fantasy, more on that Denver side, I'm finally getting confidence in Bo Nix. The first 2 weeks wasn't pretty. The last 2 weeks have been much better. He had over 300 yards last week, but it was against the Bengals. Now you're on the road against Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean and company. I think that he still will be able to get some touchdowns in. I think that Sutton will probably find the end zone. And I bet there is another big play like we saw with Egbuka, but we see it with Troy Franklin or something this week for Denver. I am a little worried about the rushing game for Denver with Dobbins and Harvey. I think that that's going to get kind of stuffed up. Dobbins has looked really good so far this year. Harvey's had some moments as well. But it's a really tough defense, and you're on the road. So that's kind of a game I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be similar to Tampa Bay's game last week, where Philly jumps out and then Denver Tampa made a comeback. I think it's the same story here, but just a little less scoring. We'll do one more game and then we'll shut out the show. But it is Dallas and the Jets. I think that's the next game where you probably want the most stock in for fantasy points. And, you got Dak, who looked probably like the best quarterback in football last week. He had such a great performance. I know it was a tie, 40-40. I know he didn't technically win, but he looked really good without CeeDee Lamb, without their starting, left guard, center, and left tackle. Like, they're missing a lot of players, and he was able to cook with George Pickens. Colbert had that big catch. Obviously, Ferguson's been great. So I think Dak's a must start. I know in one of my leagues, a league we're in together, I have Fields and Dak. And the only reason I'm going Fields is because it's 4-point passing touchdowns and Fields can run. So that's why I go Fields. But if you have 6-point passing touchdowns, I think Dak might be the play here. I think they're going to be able to cook this Jets defense that hasn't looked that good this year. So I think Dak's a must play. Ferguson's a must play. Pickens, Javonte, all should be in your lineups. I think Tolbert's a sleeper, a deeper sleeper. That rhymed. And then on the Jets side, you start Fields, you start Wilson, you start Brees, and you probably stop there. I think Isaiah Davis is also a deep sleeper.
Yeah, Justin, I think this is going to be a game with a lot of fantasy points being scored. I'm very curious to see how Dak does again. Like, this Jets defense is beatable, but I feel like sometimes in these matchups, he just doesn't shrink or he doesn't rise to the occasion, Dak, it being on the road. So I'm excited to see what you can do without CeeDee Lamb. It is going to be Sauce Gardner on Pickens, so I'm excited to see that. And then getting Javonte Williams involved and kind of, opening a play action, see what you can do, kind of similar what you did last against the Packers. One last thing, Justin, before we close it out, I cannot stress, this is a different matchup, and this is about the Lions and the Bengals. I said this earlier. If I had one player that I wish I can bring back from injury right now, it would be Joe Burrow. I mean, my gosh, Justin, how fun would this matchup be if Joe Burrow was healthy with Jamar, with T. Higgins, with Chase Brown, going up against Gibbs and Montgomery and Goff and Amon-Ra and Jameson. I mean, my gosh, Justin, what a missed opportunity, man. I wish they did this to open week 1, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, that game is so tough. Obviously, yeah, we wish Joe Burrow was there. But if you look at the Bengals, they have been horrendous. 10 points against the Vikings, 3 points against Denver. Those are tough matchups at the end of the day. That's literally like the bottom. Like, they're a team where you could use that saying, like, there's only up from here. Like, you can't get much worse than that. So,
absolutely.
like, maybe there's just some hope that it just can't be worse than what it is right now. And so maybe they do make this game somewhat of a fight. Maybe they put up 27 points or something to Detroit's like 48. I don't know, because Detroit's going to score probably every drive they step onto the field on offense. So I think we might see a little bit more from Cincinnati. So, like, if you like, obviously you have to still start Jamar Chase. Gosh, the other guys are still really iffy. I wouldn't suggest running to play T. Higgins or Chase Brown, but I could see them getting in the end zone this week. I could see it happening. If you're trying to pick from like new starter Amari DiMercado or Chase Brown, I'd go Chase Brown, or like
Harvey.
Harvey. I would go with Chase Brown over RJ Harvey this week.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the volume is still just more reliable for Brown than it is for Harvey. I kind of want to discuss even more, like Tony Pollard against the Cardinals. Ooh, that's a really tough one. I think I would lean Chase Brown. I think I would still lean Chase Brown in that one. So that kind of gives you the line of where Chase Brown's value is. For T. Higgins, you're really hoping on a touchdown. So I think that I'd rather start Jameson Williams on the other side of the ball than T. Higgins, but that might be obvious. I do like Jameson Williams to get a big score this week because we haven't seen it really happen. He had against the Bears, he had that huge touchdown that gave him a huge day. But other than that, J-Mo's been a little quiet. I think he gets back into the noise this week. But yes, you start Goff and Montgomery and them. Laporta again. You keep trying out Laporta, even though he's hurting us every week right now. If he does bad this week, maybe you start having questions of like starting Kincaid if you have him on your team or something like that over him. But yeah, Dween Nation. Those are our game predictions and discussion and analysis for week 5 of the NFL season. If you have any thoughts, comments, send yourself. If you need advice, we are both here to help you set up your fantasy lineups, maybe your pick'ems, maybe just you want to just discuss. Be like, I think this, and we can totally have a discussion because this is just the most fun. Football is the most fun, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why we want to do it every day. But thank you guys for listening, and Jano, send us out.
Yo, Dween Nation, this was our rapid fire picks of the week. Go ahead and check us out on TikTok for the actual review there. You can count how many Justin gets so we can see what happens at the end of next week. So thank you guys for watching. We love you guys. And as always,
peace.